Peace and blessings, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Conversations with Asiya. Our mission here is to educate and empower the women of our communities and the girls that they're raising. Welcome to part 2 of Honoring Awesome Dads. Last week, we went live once again with 2 great dads, and we were talking about, their journey into fatherhood and what that meant to them. And as I promised, this month, we are going to do nothing every week but honor some great dads in our community. As I mentioned, this month is a very special month for me. Not only does June have the holiday or as the celebration of fathers on Father's Day falling in the month of June, but I remember my dad. I was a girl's dad for sure. And my father passed away 7 years ago. And so I am dedicating this series and this month to my great dad, my awesome dad. And so I wanted to honor other children and other fathers who are doing just the same, who had just as much of an impact on their children as my father did. And today we are not going to disappoint. I have some girl dads in the house. And so what we're looking to do, our mission tonight is to really help in two parts. In our community, in the Black and Brown community, we often hear of the dads who are not involved in their children's life. And we see the impact of it with gun violence, gangs. We see the impact of not having a father in the children's life. And that seems to be the narrative all the time. And what we fail to do is to honor and give the flowers to the fathers who are engaged, who are involved, who are very present in their children's life. And Conversations with Asiya is looking to change that narrative and bring awareness and visibility to the fathers who are very dedicated to their children and contributing to the positivity of their community. And so I'm hoping that fathers who, for whatever reason, no judgment, but for whatever reason haven't been engaged in their children's life, I would love for you to listen to the stories of these fathers and the journeys of, them being fathers and fatherhood. And it may just be the spark that may want you to re-engage with your children. And I'm personally speaking to the women who are listening and viewers on the show, being that this show is to empower and educate the women of our communities, but to definitely implore the women that are not allowing their children, again, no judgment, but for whatever the reason is, not allowing your children to be involved with their fathers. I'm hoping that this conversation and you hearing the stories of not only the fathers, but a daughter who has her father in her life, that maybe you may reconsider that thought process as well, because the ones that lose out, unfortunately, are the children. So without further ado, I want to introduce our great dads and our great daughter that's in the house tonight. And so we're going to start with a childhood friend who I've known probably since I was about maybe 16, I think, 16 years old. We met, I was in high school. We met at it was like a gathering, a house party kind of thing. I saw, Fabian saw me, he was dancing. I was a dancer back then. That was when MC Hammer, Bobby Brown was, out, and we was doing our thing. And so I met Fabian at that event. And so Fabian Chichester, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Now he's all calm. Trust me, when he was at this dance, he was not calm. So welcome, Fabian. And so what I would love to do now is to introduce his absolutely beautiful daughter, Rain. Hi, Rain.
Hi, guys.
How are you?
Doing good. I just actually finished working, so I'm doing good.
Great. Now, I've heard all about you, Rain, but this is the first time that I'm actually speaking to you. I've seen all of the pictures, all of your dad posts up everything about you. So he's very involved and he's a very proud dad. So I just, I'm very honored to have you on the show and finally meet you after hearing so many beautiful things about you. So welcome.
Thank you.
And last but definitely not least, we have a very special guest, Brother Hanif Williams, who I met, I think maybe about a couple of years ago, right?
Yeah.
Through a mutual friend who told me, you got to meet him. He's a great guy. He's involved with the youth. He's spiritually sound. He's a good mentor to have. And sure enough, it didn't disappoint. And we've been knowing each other, and you have been a mentor to me throughout, the last couple of years, and being able to reach out, which I'm so thankful for. And Hanif is also a girl dad. He has girls, girls. I think you do have a son, right? Do you?
No, 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 no. I don't. I don't. I just nothing but
You have
girls.
you're a girl dad. Okay,
Yeah.
so I got girl dads in the house. So Hanif is a girl dad. So welcome, Hanif. How are
Thank you.
you?
Thank you so much. It's great. It's great to be here. Of course, it's not always easy to get me, but you have a streamline to me, and I can
Right.
always, you skip over the assistants. You can go straight to me. So it's always a pleasure to have a moment just to stop my schedule and sit here. What an incredible topic that you have. Something that's one of the pillars of the communities, and I'm so happy to be here with Fabian and his princess Rain here, and I appreciate this opportunity to speak.
Thank you. I know you do have a very busy schedule. As you can see, Fabian has a busy schedule. He's mobile, but he made it possible to come on. So I do. And the viewers appreciate you. They've been looking forward to this episode. So with that, let's get right into it. Let's get into it. So I want to start with you, Brother Hanif. What does fatherhood mean to you? What does that mean to you when you hear that word?
Well, first of all, again, I want to thank you for giving me the privilege to even share one of the most. I have many achievements in my life and successes. The number one achievement is becoming a father. I became a father at the age of 19. It was something that I'll never ever forget. You can't. I got three daughters, Hania, Ruhani, and Marjana, and you just can't do the first. You can't be new twice, right? So each and every one of them have a special place in my heart. Fatherhood to me is just really responsibility. It's accountability. It's the ability to lead. It's ability to learn. Of course, we need more Colin Kaepernick fathers than Donald Trump fathers. I think we need to be on the front line of being advisors and not supervisors. So that's the main thing. Is just there is just to be a mentor, responsibility and accountability. That's what fatherhood is to me.
Wow, great. Yeah, yeah, accountability and responsibility for sure, for sure. Fabian, when you hear that word, when you hear the word fatherhood, what does that mean to you as a father?
Fatherhood for me means exactly pretty much what the gentleman mentioned. More so for me, it's being an example of a being for my daughter. Fatherhood for me is being the best person I could be and the best example for her. Also, the other part for fatherhood for me is also making me a better person by having a daughter, or even if I had a son, just having a child, because that rounds off you as an individual, that rounds off you as a human
Yeah,
being. It's a sense of love that you can't understand unless you have a child. Everything your parents told you when you were a child, it comes full circle when you get your child, and no one will understand it until you have your own. And when yours is
yeah.
telling you the same thing you were telling your parents, just being a
We're losing you a little bit, Fabe.
I thought it was me.
No, it wasn't you. We were trying to check this before we came on, but I love what he was saying. Hopefully he'll rejoin us again. But yeah, I love what he was saying. It's being that example, kind of leading by example, and that kind of comes with what you were saying, being responsible. If you're responsible and accountable, knowing, Hanif, like you said, with your children are watching you and your children are seeing you, that leading by example just takes on a whole nother level. Am I correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think that the fact that he mentioned the leadership aspect of it, especially when you become a young father. I didn't become actually full circle fatherhood until I was maybe 10 years into fatherhood. I guess yeah,
Mm,
10 Rouhani and my children are spaced apart like 10 years. And so right around Rouhani, my second child, that's when I understood the leadership aspect of it. But yeah, I think Fabian is back now.
yeah, Fabian. Okay, so we were just kind of piggybacking off what you were saying. You were talking about leadership and kind of leading by
right,
example, right?
correct. Because I mean, as your children, you're their first stream of information in their life. And if their first stream of information in their life is a bad example, then they have an upward battle in life.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree 100%. So I
Mm.
want to now take it to Rain. listening to what fatherhood means to both your dad and what fatherhood means to Brother Hanif, you know, as I mentioned in the introduction to our show, we often hear about the fathers that are not, in their children's life, and we've seen that. We see it with the boys. We see the gun violence. We see the gang activity, and then we see with the girls. Girls vying for attention, negative attention, because they don't have the love of their dad. What has that journey been like for you, seeing that, but having your dad so present? What has that been for you? What has that been like for you?
It gets kind of tricky. I actually have personal, like, one of my closest friends, even growing up, a couple girls, because I changed schools a lot. So I always had like new friends every year. But every friend, I always had that one friend that didn't have a dad. So it was so interesting, like from kindergarten to even now, one of my friends at college, she just reconnected with her father and she's like 22 and she never grew up with him. So sometimes sometimes it can get kind of funny talking about my dad with them because it's a little bit sensitive topic for them. But
Right.
it even goes into like relationships, like with guys. So like it kind of piggyback bounces off of that, if that makes sense. So like we'll be talking about, let's say if one of my friends wants to talk to a guy, but she ends up talking about her issues with men because she's like, well, I have daddy issues basically. So it
Mm-hmm.
ends up going into that type of topic. So it always gets kind of tricky, like having friends who don't have dads, but I always, I'm always open to share my dads with people. I always tell my friends that it's open. They never really take advantage of that because it's like, well, it's your dad, and like I'm not gonna like, come to your dad for
Impose.
any like,
Right.
yeah. So I mean, they never end up doing it, but I always open the door for them. But I notice it gets kind of tricky having to talk to them about fathers because it's always a sensitive topic.
And what has that been like for you though? Like, aside from your friends, just you personally having your dad in your life, what has that meant to you personally?
It's great. It's great. I feel like it's such an advantage. I feel like my mom and my dad are two different people. So having my dad, I'm able to learn like the business side of things or like the street side of things. So like certain things that my mom can teach me, if that makes sense. Like
It does.
my dad's very well rounded. So like he'll always tell me straight up, like, look, this is the deal. This is how it's gonna go. It's either this way or that way. This is your choice. But it's your choice. So like he'll always be 100% real, no matter if it's good or bad. And so like I always appreciate that. So for me personally, having him in my life, it's always a good thing. Like I felt like I wouldn't be as strong or as well rounded without him.
Wow. Fabe, I know that hit home there, huh?
Yeah.
I know that hit home. So
No, it's
I
nice.
know. Huh? Say that again.
No, it's nice to hear what your children's thoughts are of you without them telling you. Because usually your kids are always going to say what they want you to hear. So it's nice to hear your children speak of you to someone else because everybody wants to be a fly in a wall sometimes in their child's life.
Yeah.
So it's nice. It's very nice.
Yeah, it's nice to hear that the fact that she does appreciate your involvement. And it does. I mean, like I said, I was a daddy's girl. And, to this day, I crave to just call him. I still have his phone
Mhm.
number in my phone, even though, and I just look at it sometimes just wanting to crave and call him. So, speaking of fathers, um, Hanif, you share kind of the same experience with me, not, your father no longer being here in the physical. um, what experience did you have with your dad? What did you learn from your father that helped shape the father that you are with your daughters?
Well, simply put, my father was the greatest human being I've ever met. He was the likes in which I don't think that history can produce people like my father. He was an absolute quintessential leader, and he once made a statement one time. He said, early on in his life, he thought that he was specifically created just to protect women in his family. And statements like that, you grow up. I spent a lot of time. He's my number one mentor. I don't love anybody more than I love my father. It's even, and some people may understand this. I love my father probably more than I love my own children, and he has that much of had that much of an impact on me. But just in a general sense, he has shaped every way, the way I think, the way I approach his thought process. I mean, my body language, and he was so instrumental in how I view society, my perspective, obviously, the type of business I went into, and just how I love women. Obviously, I became a girl dad. My father was surrounded by women, and just I mean, my father's favorite out of all of the siblings. My father's favorite child is my sister. I mean, so things like that had a tremendous impact on me. But more importantly than that, my father was center in our lives. As a matter of fact, a really cool story. When we was putting together his promo video after he passed, my mother wanted us to find a picture of him or whatever, and we couldn't find a single picture of him solo, because
Wow.
every single picture that he had, he was standing next to us. I mean, this was something that was very, very difficult to find. This man having a picture by himself. I mean, he was
Wow.
always with one of us in the pictures. So, and this is not, we're talking about, I was 35 years old. So my father's into his 60s at this point. And at that
Wow.
point, it was very difficult to find a picture of him just standing
By
by himself. He
himself.
was always with us. So, nevertheless, he played a tremendous role in my life. He played the greatest role in my life. My success is nothing without him. Uh,
Hmm.
just the way he thinks. I don't think that I go a day without thinking about him. And I want to say this to you, Asiya. I'll never get over the death of my father. It's just something that
Me
just won't
either.
happen. I've accepted it. I mean, people like that, you can't bury a library. Even if a library burns down, some books you'll never be able to replace. And so you just learn to deal with it with time and just get through it day by day. But to answer your question, tremendous. He was central. I think about him every single day, and I'm so grateful to be one of the fruits of his labor.
So, speaking of fruits of his labor, how many siblings do you have, Hanif?
Oh yeah, it's 20 of us. My father had
20
children from
of you.
yeah,
You saw Rain's face?
yeah, I see her face. It's
It's a
Yeah.
lot.
Yeah, my father
Yeah.
had children from 1970 to 1999. He took care of every single one of us.
Yeah.
So I have a very big family, obviously, and
Yeah.
so I'm super grateful for that. I mean, my father's the
Hmm.
center of everything that we do.
Wow. Amazing. Amazing. 20 children and involved and engaged in all of his children's life to the point where you couldn't even find a single picture with him by himself.
Yeah.
So amazing. Fabian, I want to ask you the same thing. Um, your father is still with us, and um, you come from the Guyanese culture. And so I've seen pictures of you and your dad, and I've seen you recently go fishing, I think it was, or you was boating with your dad. What was him being in your life and you being raised with your dad? What impact has that had on you, uh, being the father that you are today?
Bad area. I feel so bad.
Dad, you're on live.
Oh, I was just saying I felt bad because I was in a bad area and I was losing them.
So were you able to hear my question? I hope he can hear me. Were you able to hear my question, Fabian?
Um, I'm gonna have to check back in because I'm not hearing
Okay,
them.
we're having some technical difficulties. So hopefully he'll sign back on and we'll be able to ask him that question as well. So I want to ask you, Rain, what have you seen, just from a youth's perspective, being that you are engaged in having your father engaged in your life, and seeing now, Hanif talking about he had 20 siblings and his dad being so involved in his life. What do you think is one of the biggest, what would you say is one of the reasons why you see youth today engaging in negative activity when their fathers are not in their life? What do you think is missing that you clearly have in yours?
I think it's the love, personally. I think it's the love, and yeah, I'm gonna stick with that. I think it's the love. See, I'm a daddy's girl too, or at least I grew up as a daddy's girl. Right now, our relationship has shifted because I'm older. But when I was younger, I always got so much attention. And I feel like with other kids, I can't speak on the sons as much just because I'm not too sure about that. But in terms of like daughters, I think it's the love and the attention in a sense. I've always got like, so it was almost too much love from him in a sense. But it was like, I knew he was always there. Like I grew up with my dad. So like compared to my sister and I, like we grew up in two different households. So I grew up mainly with him and she grew up with my mom more. So like in terms of like having my dad there and like he's always like, no matter how mad he'll get at you, like he'll always at the end of the day be like, it's okay, we're gonna get through it,
Right.
There's another solution. So it's like I think it's at the end of the day, no matter how many like morals or how many lessons you get from a father, I think at the end of the day it's the compassion and love they have for their kid, and it's totally different like from a mom. It's just completely different. So I think at the end of the day it's the love, and I feel like that's what I'm not sure in terms of sons that's what causes certain, or even young women, certain violence and stuff like that. But I think for women specifically, I feel like it is the love and compassion between a father and daughter.
Yeah, I have to agree with you, Rain. Does anybody want to comment on what Rain just said? Because I totally agree with her, and I do have a perspective on that. Does any of the fathers want to kind of, piggyback off of what Rain just said about the difference that she sees between her and other girls, and maybe the struggles that she sees is because she constantly had that love? Anybody want to comment on that?
I mean, I can't. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Great, Fabe.
Yeah. A father's love for a daughter. I don't have a son.
Oh, we lost him again. Oh no. Oh, he's just, he's mobile. He's mobile right now, so it's in and out. But Hanif, did you want to say anything, regarding what she was saying, being that you are a girl dad and you're raising girls, and I know some of your siblings, they do have sons. So what do you see as the difference? And you're very involved in the youth, Brother Hanif. So what do you see is the impact of having a father in their life versus ones that don't?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's really amazing that Rain is able to articulate herself like that when it comes to her relationship with her father, and she's able to even look at to do like compare between her and her peers. The bottom line is that a father plays such an incredible role. Mothers are, I wouldn't say overly celebrated, but fathers are under celebrated. And so I believe both of them have an equal part in it. And unfortunately, in our communities, the black and brown communities, we don't see that. I mean, the church on Mother's Day, for the Sunday of Mother's Day for church is like it's one of the biggest times of the year, right? But
It's like
Father's
Easter.
Day, yeah, but Father's Day is not going to be like that, right? So I think it's very important to put an emphasis on, how much of an impact that a father can have on a child's life. And like you said, there is a complete difference. Most daughters are going to grow up to be, if a father's in the house, most daughters are going to be girl dads. Most of them are going to be daddy's girls. Most of them are going to be like one. For a father that's involved, that cares, that brings the balance, they're always going to refer to their father or defer to their father. And that's just the way it is. But again, my daughters are able to are able to have a balance, and like I said, they all are super spoiled by me. So obviously, they're going to they know that I'm going to say yes. You know what I mean? So yeah, the impact is clear. But I think Rain, she really articulated well. And I know Fabian's back, so I want to hear what he has to say.
Yeah, so Fabe, let's get back to you. Hopefully we won't lose you.
Yeah,
But
I'm sorry. I really apologize in your live cast that this is happening to me. So I do apologize to the audience. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep. So what I was just pretty much saying is I don't have a son, but I do know my friends that have sons, and one love isn't better than the other. But I do think for any man, and I
Oh, we're losing him again. It seems like every time we give Fabian that chance, something happens, you know. But he was making a good point. I just want to read as we wait for Fabian to come back on. I want to read some of the comments that we're getting from the viewers. One of them is from Rabia. She says, "I believe if men stand up, a lot of these young boys would not be in the system." You agree with that?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I would definitely agree. And she also said sometimes you can have both parents and that child's path is different. I agree. I mean, I was raised with both my parents, and I definitely saw the benefits of both. You know, my mom taught me what it was to be a girl. You know, the things of puberty and becoming a young lady, your body changing. She had an understanding of that when I got married and became pregnant, you know, with my children. My mother was able to describe certain things that I would be going through that my father couldn't understand. But my dad, I had those moments with my dad where he taught me what boys thought. That never crossed my mind. And I'm like, boys don't think like that. And he's like, oh, yeah, they do. It's very different from girls. And so he gave me a very different perspective. And I have 5 brothers. So gave me a very different perspective as it relates to the world and men. So Faye, we're gonna get you right now. Go ahead.
Right. So yeah. So primarily is like I said for me, and I think the brother on the phone could attest to this. It just it rounds a man off. I think it makes a man a better man. Um, as of being an example, you know, for a father, want I want my daughters to always have the best that I could give them. You know, I want them to be great women, leaders, not dependent. But on the same token, have a lot of passion and but
We're losing him again.
does that make sense? Kind of? This is
We
so
lost
sad.
we lost that last part. Yeah, we lost that last part.
You lost the last part.
Yeah, I lost that last part, and we lost him again. Oh, I think him being mobile, it's bringing some difficulty. So I want to go. I want to take it back to Rain. Rain, you know you've been able, as Brother Hanif said, been able so beautifully to articulate. And I'm so sad your dad's not going to be here to listen. Hopefully he'll sign on. But I wanted to ask you because I've had beautiful memories, as Brother Hanif mentioned. He can count. He has countless memories of his father, you know, being in his life and what that meant to him and how it shaped him being a father. What I would like to know, I've had memories, like distinct memories of special moments that I will never forget with my dad. And I would love to know, you know, what was that moment for you where you had that memory, something that no matter how old you get, it's a memory that will forever be embedded in your mind, that was a special moment between you and your father, and you could not have had that with anyone else but him.
Okay, there's two. I can't like choose between one and two because they're both around the same time, if that makes
Okay.
sense. So the
Yeah.
first one is when I first like started like dancing, kind of like, I don't want to say seriously, but like it was when I first fell in love with dancing. And I was on stage. This was like 6th grade, and it was like the first time I've ever performed on a stage. And so we were doing like the Jabberwockies, and so I was like part of a dance crew, and we had masks on, so he didn't know which one I was. And we each had like a solo. I think I was the last one, or like the second to last one. So I performed, and then we take our masks off. So then we finished the performance, and I found out like at the end he didn't know that was me dancing. And so he was like so shocked, and he was like, I didn't I didn't know you can. Basically, he didn't know I could dance. And then
Oh, I hope it.
it was just funny because I felt like, oh my God, always that dog or that girl that wanted to make him proud. So I would do anything
Mhm.
to be like, to make him like happy, or like if it's a straight A's, okay, I'm gonna get straight A's, like this and that. So I was like that type of person, or I'm still kind of that person. And so that was like a really crazy moment because it was like he saw my talent. And then the second one, it was in 5th grade. This one was, I think he might say this one, but we had like a father-daughter dance. And so we had to like take our dads to like this school, and then we basically danced with them and stuff. But it was like, he keeps quoting this, but I said it was like the best night of my life. And so it was cute though, because it was like the one night me and him went to like a little dance together and took pictures
That
and
is
stuff. So those are like the two
that's
moments I think I
beautiful.
will never actually forget.
Beautiful, beautiful. Wow, amazing. I want to ask the dad. So, Fabian and Hanif, what's a moment that you have with your girls that it's a moment that really defined fatherhood for you, where you was like, this is that moment that it means everything to me. So, Fabian, we're gonna try to give you a chance. Hopefully, we'll get all of it. And then Hanif, I want you to share that defining moment for you with your girls. So, Fabian, what was that moment for you? So, Rain just shared two beautiful experiences with you. What was that moment for you that you remember with Rain?
Do you mind if I defer to the brother first, because we're about to get in the freeway, so I should probably get better reception than being by the water.
Sure. Not a problem. Hanif,
Okay, thanks.
what was
Sure, I
that
think
moment for you?
I think I really want to go back to what I said before. I mean, you can't be new twice. I mean, I just feel like, when I seen Hania and when she was born on July 26, 2000, I can't, describe what that feeling was like. Seeing my child be born, and I think that's a milestone moment, because again, you can't do number one twice, and of course there's many other milestones and uh, defining moments, if you will. But I just that right there was I just would never forget that feeling. I mean, it's indescribable. I mean, at that point, becoming a father. I mean, watching, obviously, watching a pregnancy and feeling the stomach and watching the baby kick. And actually, what's funny is that I beat her mother to the hospital. I mean, that's how excited I was,
Right.
because, I just did like 100 miles an hour to the hospital with just that. But I just would never forget that moment of seeing the
Mm-hmm.
baby. And so that was something that was, I just know I'll never be able to have that feeling again, even though I had two other children. It was just,
Right.
I already knew what to expect. And I felt that each and every one of them was different, but that number one was just something special.
Wow. I can imagine, because I remember as the mother, it was like, okay, this is it. This is what I've been prepping, 9, 10 months for. And so for the father, and I think we always just focus on the mom because they're carrying the baby and it's like what she's going through. But fathers are just as attached as they're watching the stomach grow, as they're feeling the baby moving. And I don't think we give enough dads credit that from beginning, from the moment of I'm pregnant to when the baby comes out, and then raising the child, I don't think we understand that bond. While it's different from the mother because we have that maternal growing inside of us feeling, but fathers are just as attached. Am I right, honey?
I
Yeah, I
agree.
mean yeah, I mean it's an emotional attachment for sure. Maybe not the physical aspect of it, but emotional attachment, especially if you consciously have made the decision that you want to be a part of the child's life, and things are it's pretty smooth for you. Yeah,
Right,
definitely.
right. So I want to get back to the community aspect of it as it relates to fatherhood, especially in the Black and Brown community. And as I mentioned on the onset of, the show, we hear all the negatives. We hear the negatives of, the fathers that are quote unquote deadbeats and absentee dads. And we even have the terms baby daddy, and it has these negative connotations. And there's a lot of discussion and narrative about that. But as we can see from last week to this week, and just if we just think to ourselves, the men that we know, past and present, that are great dads to their children, um, for the fathers, for whatever reason that they're not in their children's life right now, what would be your comment, Rain? Coming from a youth's perspective or a young adult, because you're not a child, but a young adult perspective. What would you say to that father, being that you've had your dad in your life? what would that, what would you say to that father who has been absent, and knowing from your perspective of having it, what would you say to that dad?
And wait, just to clarify the question, and are they able to see their kid and stuff, or like are they just
Well, it could be, different circumstances. Maybe the children and the children's mother and the father don't get along, and maybe that's why. Maybe they're
okay.
being, yeah, or they're choosing not to for whatever reason, because maybe they didn't have a father in their life. There could be different variables as to why. But being that you are a daughter, oh my goodness, we lost Rain too. I hope
Well,
we didn't.
I could piggyback off of the question that was
Okay.
asked first. What was the moment for her in my life? I apologize again, you guys. I feel so bad about this whole situation. So please forgive me for this.
Okay.
But,
Let me just let me try to
oh,
get Fabian
she's right
before
there.
we lose him to
I
answer
think
that question that we asked before, which is the defining moment that was fatherhood for you. And then Rain, we're going to go back and have you answer that question. Is that okay?
right.
Yeah.
Okay, Faith.
So there's really three defining moments for me with my daughter, because with a child from 0 to 10 is a defining moment. From 10 to like 18, the teenage years is another defining moment. And then there's that age from 18 to an adulthood that's the defining moment. Because your relationship with your child at eight, when she's in her 20s, is different than your relationship with your child when she's 0 to 10. Okay, so I'm not gonna make this elaborate, but the three defining moments for me with my daughter was the day she was born was my first defining moment. I think every parent kind of understands that, but I'll never forget this. We brought her home. She's about maybe a month old now, and I'm at the computer, and she's in her little rocker at my feet, right? And I'm looking at this baby, and I'm like, damn, that's a pretty baby, you know. Well, of course, I think I'll pick
My dad actually
parents
said
can
that
kind
in the
of be.
nursery.
How is she gonna turn? Like, right, like what is she gonna be? How is she gonna turn out? How is she gonna look? What's her life gonna be, and so forth. So that was very defining for me in that aspect. The other defining moment was when she started becoming a teenager, and I was kind of like, I never told her this. She might find this funny, but I've always told my daughters, no matter what, just don't ever be scared to tell me anything, because I didn't have that relationship with my parents, like about anything. So I was very close to my daughter. So like when it came time to her to have like her period and stuff like that, she never like shared with me. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, like her mom, which is her stepmom, would be like, well, of course she's not to. But for me, it was like I thought we were cool like that. You know what I'm saying? I thought we could go there to any situation. So that was a defining moment to where I realized, okay, she's becoming a young lady, and I can't hold on to her in that way of like she's this little baby girl I can get all up in and so forth. Because now, rather than getting these type of great hugs, I kind of got the head bow, where I'm kissing the top of the head rather than getting all up in her, right? And then the last defining moment was actually, we just had it, um, where we went to lunch, and this is recently, to where I was able to release the fact that she is grown. She's doing grown woman things. And I trust that all of the stuff that I've taught her, she'll take with her. And that she can don't ever be fearful of me, because I look at you now as my daughter, but I also look at you as a woman. Not my baby girl anymore, that I have to, if you fall down, I'm going to pick you up and all that type of stuff. But as of like, look, you know what? I don't want to be, I want to be your best friend, but your
Oh,
best
we're losing him.
friend.
Fabian, can you repeat that last?
Could
You
be
said you want to be her best friend, and what? Because we lost that last part, and I think this was a real moment.
He started shaking the phone.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but this was real. Like I was all into what he was saying. I was
Yeah,
like,
it's a
wait.
Well,
very, very good timeline. Yes, very good.
I want to
Yeah, I think the mobility of where he's at, it's taking away.
Mm.
Yeah, we're losing him. Oh, that was a moment right there. He was talking about right now, like that moment that he just had with you. Or do you? Okay, there you go, Fabian. Can you hear us? Oh, that was a real moment. That was a real moment. Wow. Now, um, Hanif, you have daughters that range from what age to what ages?
It's 20 to 3.
Did you have that moment that Fabian was just talking about? That transition period from, coddling them to your grown daughter, and
right.
did you have that same moment?
Can,
Oh, we lost him again. Hanif, did you have that
I think.
moment?
Yeah, I think we all have those moments, right? Maybe not that hands-on in different approaches, but my daughters tell me, I not only that, I kind of like know what's going on with them, but we have an open door policy. I'm the same way. Tell me everything. But at the same time, we definitely had those moments where you have to say, "Listen, look. I mean, I have to let go, right? You have to let the bird out of its nest." So, and this is not an easy pill to swallow. A lot of fathers, they go through, and a lot of our children might not understand this, but um, fathers who are really involved, like especially fathers that have had challenges with women and different things like that, they actually look to their daughters like, this is the woman that's not going to break my heart, and it's not going to necessarily let me down, right? So
Yeah.
to see your
Oh, that's
daughter grow
powerful.
up, so to see your daughter grow up and leave, it's like, the consistency that I had in my life is now going to
That is now
go is
gone.
going to go to is going to go to a different stage. So it's a bittersweet thing, but at the same time, I say to all of the fathers, if you've raised your children right, then please trust the way you have brought your child up, and you have to let your children fly and explore.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. That was a powerful statement that you just made. And I think it goes on both ends. Mothers sometimes they look to their sons to be that man in their life. And and you just mentioned that fathers even go through that. And that's a concept that I hadn't even thought of. That fathers, who have been hurt by women may look to their daughters to be the one that this is the woman that's never gonna hurt me. That is a wow. That's a whole conversation in and of
Yeah,
itself. A whole
yeah,
another.
yeah. And another part of that is also for as you begin to mature in the maturation process, as you get to different stages in your life, your 20s, 30s, and you start to reach the peak of maturity, you start to become reflective. There's reflective years that you look
Mm,
at the things you've done wrong, and so perhaps a man was with a woman that he did not protect like that. So now he's hyper overprotective when it comes to his daughter, because he was in situations where he necessarily did not protect women, right? So, or he didn't have a good relationship with his mother, people, insignificant women in his life. So, therefore, he's going to make sure that he has a great relationship with his daughter. So, all of those things are really, really important.
right. Wow. This is, I mean, we can really like kind of dissect this whole thing and have, a sequel just on these particular topics because it does. It affects us and how we are as parents. Um, and even with Rain, as you become a parent, your relationship with your dad and your relationship with your mom is going to play into what type of mother, you're going to be. And I know it did for me. And I'm sure, as you mentioned, Brother Hanif, your father played an integral role in the type of father that you are today. So I want to, Fabian's coming back. Hopefully he'll be able to end that last statement, what you were talking about, the defining moment, this last piece that you said, um, you were expressing that you had to let her go, and you were give us that nugget, because that was
Right.
really some good stuff.
So the last phase, her and I went and had lunch. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Her and I went and had lunch, and it's now letting go from being daddy's girl and hoping that all of your teaching, you have to trust, and she has to find her way. She has to fall. She has to go through her process, and you're just hoping that 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 your whatever you've built is it'll be there for her, and for her to also not be scared of you now, as of like, that's my dad, I don't want to disappoint him, and I would like to be her best friend, but in not her best friend in that way, but her best friend as her dad, that no matter what, you could tell me anything, whether I'm mad or not, I'm always gonna have your back, because I am your number one fan in the world, period. you know so I think her and I had that breaking. We had that breakthrough. I don't know. You could have to ask her if she felt the same way. But after that lunch, my relationship with her has gone to another level, and that was a breakthrough. Because your question was, what are these defining moments? That was a defining moment for me with my daughter.
Wow. Rain, did you feel that way after having that discussion, that you and your dad's relationship evolved to a different level of father-daughter?
No, for sure. It definitely has shifted. And it's funny because like looking back at like different times in my life with him, it's just funny. Like me and him, we've had our ups and downs, but it's like at the end of the day, like it was all good. It was all good.
And you knew that he was always there for you. Yeah. I went through
Oh,
that same period
oh,
with my
for
dad.
sure. Literally, at
Yeah.
the end of the day, I knew like he had it was always his best intentions. Like I always knew that.
Right.
So like no
Right.
matter how, like let's say if you had like a hard day and like let's say if he was on you, like it was always best intentions. So
Right.
like you never take it personally.
Wow, wonderful. So you two felt that connection and that evolving of your relationship, that turning point. That's beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. I want to ask you, Hanif. You said you were a young dad. You were 19 when you had your daughter, and now you have a younger daughter. Did you see the difference in the way you fathered your oldest daughter in comparison to your youngest daughter?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because there is there is, I'm 30. I was 20, you talk about 19 and 37. I mean, so obviously that's a generation at that point. And I just feel like, just where I was at in my career, the success that I have achieved at 37, and as opposed to 19. So obviously you have two totally different mindsets. Hania, who's my first child, she's seeing the struggle and all of that. Marjan is a privileged child. She doesn't know anything whatsoever about struggle. So,
Right.
but like I said, also my maturity level, my perspective, my approach, my patience, all of those things. Because at 19 years old, what do I know at 19 years old? I don't know anything, right?
Right.
Let's be honest, right? I don't know anything, and I'm temperamental, I'm moody. But at 37, when I had Marjana, obviously, obviously I'm successful. I'm someone who's, well known in the community. At that point, it's just I'm in legacy building mode with her. You know what I mean? When you have Marjana now, 3 years old, I'm in legacy building mode. So at that point, at 20, at 19, I am in establish myself. Right, I have to prove myself to the world that I'm here. So there is a significant difference, even how I approach my daughters and like that. And Ruhani comes in the middle of that. So Ruhani gets a little bit of both.
Bit of both.
So, yeah.
Right. Wow. Fabian, what's
Yes.
the difference between Rain and her younger sister? And was there a difference for you in how you fathered the two of them?
Yes.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
She said yes. She said, I'll answer that.
Yeah. Um, I love both my daughters equally, but in two totally different ways. Um, I'm the type of father, I'm gonna call a spade a spade. I'm not the type of father that's gonna just say something. Um, the difference between my two daughters is is Rain takes takes a lot of my of me, as of like, she's gonna make it happen. She's gonna figure it out and so forth. Um, Venice is a hustler, and it's you gotta love a hustler. You gotta love we call Rain Officer Rain. The Rain's gonna do everything right. Rain was the perfect child. She was so perfect that it was like it scared you. Like, you know what? I don't like you because you're too perfect. Like do something wrong. So so with Venice, she's a hustler, and so you can't love her the same way you could kind of love Rain. You know. Um, and it was a different, like the gentleman said, Venice came in a different part of my life. I was a little older. I was in my second marriage. Um, Rain came in when I was younger. Um, so I don't care how many kids a person has, depending where you are in your life, your where you are with them is going to be different, and their personality is going to make you feel different. Venice is a lot more affectionate towards me. She rubs my head. She comes and cuddles me because she's a hustler. Rain loves me, but Rain is not as affectionate physically with me, you know. And you can ask any dad, any little girl or their daughters that is more affectionate with them, that's gonna rub them and hug them and squeeze on them. They're a little bit more, softer on them. They're a little bit more baby them compared to the one that you kind of have to grab. And I only could kind of speak for myself, but I think I'm pretty much solid as of my manhood, and I think most men can understand that, and you could ask the gentleman there if it's true or not,
Hanif, is that true?
So
Yeah, it's definitely true. It's 100% true, and it has every. This is advice for people who are young fathers and want to become fathers, and I think it's great what Fabian has mentioned. I'm glad we can hear him clearly now. Pretty sure
Yeah.
he had a lot of other things to say. Yes.
yeah. So
So
so so so the it's it, having children for everyone, it's their own path in life. There's no if we had the handbook, it would be easy, you
right.
know. But I think having children for anyone is, if you're not happy with yourself, or if you're not being the best person you could be, then you're really not offering nothing to your children.
Mhm.
You're not. The world is going to offer your children things, and you're going to wonder what happened. Where did I go wrong? But where you went wrong was you didn't even make yourself happy. You didn't make yourself right. You know, if you
You
can't make
didn't do the
yourself right
work.
or make yourself happy, how could you make your children or your family happy?
Mm,
Right.
mm.
So I'm a stickler as of, like, if you don't love yourself first, you can't love anything else.
You're
You
absolutely
know.
right, Faye. That's a powerful statement. And I think a lot of, and Hanif was kind of alluding to that. Sometimes you look for exterior validation of who you are, even if it's your children, if you're not okay with yourself, and it becomes much harder to let go, or as we say, cut the umbilical cord, because you, as you said, you don't have that self-love and you're not okay with yourself in order to deal with the changes that are inevitably going to happen in your relationship with your children as they become older and independent. So
Correct.
that's a great point, Fabian. I'm loving this, and we can go on and on. But as the show is coming to a close, I really would love for you to give your final thoughts. And I love the fact that Rain was on here to be able to share her defining moment with her dad. Brother Hanif was able to share the moment that was defining for him, and the changes of fatherhood that has happened for both you and Fabian, that has happened. And I remember Fabian when Fabian was, high school, that, just, anything goes, kid, to see him now more mature. And this is just from the outside looking in. So I can imagine, what he's like as a father now, being, older. So I want to ask, in your final thoughts, Fabian, I'm going to start with you to speak to
Mhm.
two points here. To the fathers who, for whatever the reason, they're not in their children's life, and and encouraging them to re-engage in their children's life, and for the mothers who may be using their children as a pawn, because of their dissatisfaction with the relationship. And aside from physical abuse or any type of sexual abuse, obviously that's a valid reason to not have the children around the parent. But other than that, for just personal reasons, what would be your final thoughts to both those, that audience, as we're honoring fathers like yourself?
I mean, I, I I have no respect for any man that 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 was grown enough to sleep with a woman and create a child and don't step up. I have no respect or no tolerance for it. None. There's nothing you can say to me, because when you bring someone into the earth, or you bring an innocent child that didn't ask to come, you have responsibility. Period. You know. So I say to those fathers that now, if you're a deadbeat and you're just a loser, and then maybe it's best you don't be in their life. But 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 you still could be a symbol of change, of growth, of being better. So that question is really hard for me, because I can't relate to it. I
Right.
can't relate to any human being that's gonna could be grown to do adult things, but when you have now responsibility, you walk away from it, especially a man. I have no to that. I'm pretty kind of harsh in my stance in that situation. As for the moms that use the children as pawns, um, I kind of had a little situation like that. And the sad part about that is, at the end of the day, is you might not, you as an adult might not agree, but you could both still love your children, and my love for my child and your love for her, we could still love them, and we could still just be adults and professional with it. The mothers that do that,
Okay.
I think I'm gonna put them in the same spectrum as what I put those men. I got no respect, no respect and no tolerance for them either,
Right.
because they're
Right.
they're right there at the same level as a father that's not in his children's life. And just because you don't to be in someone's life doesn't mean you have to physically be there sometimes, you know. But maybe it's a finance. Send the money if that's all you can do. Show something, anything possible, because you brought that child into the world. So I
Right.
think for those individuals that aren't doing that, they need help. They need therapy. Maybe they need to find God,
For
or
sure.
or, or
For sure.
whoever they want to find, but they need some to be a figure, because at the end of the days, I know my children, no matter how they turned out, they will never say, "Hey, my dad wasn't there for me. Maybe I didn't do everything right,
Absolutely.
but I guarantee they're gonna say, you know what? He might not
Dad
have been
tried.
all right, but he was present in my life." And I could go to
And he
sleep
tried.
and I could be judged by whatever being is out there and say, "Hey, you know what? I got to give you an A on that. The rest I could give you B's and C's, but I'm gonna give you an A on that." You know,
He
and
said
I could
B's
go to
and
sleep.
C's on the rest. I know that's
You
right.
know, and I could close my eyes and go to sleep. I could close my eyes
Right.
and go to sleep well, knowing that.
That's
So
awesome.
I know I
That's
went on a
awesome.
tangent, and I know I didn't even answer your question, but
No,
that's
you
a very
did.
tough
No, you
question for
did.
me.
You absolutely did. You absolutely did. Hanif, I want to
My
ask you
daughter
in
is
closing.
embarrassed.
Uh, no. In closing, Hanif, I want to ask you, because we have just a couple more minutes. I want to ask you, what would you say? What would be your final thoughts to both the father and the mother, that in this particular topic of the children not having the benefit of their dad?
Well, number one is that, obviously, I think that Brother Fabian mentioned it clearly, is that, I am naturally hard on men, period. And I echo the same sentiments as he just mentioned a few minutes ago. I think that's what's more important than anything is for us to understand that, again, it's about responsibility and accountability. He mentioned it before. If you can bring a child into this world, then obviously you have to see them through the world, through and to and through, right? So I just want to make sure that the fathers are being responsible and accountable. That's very important, and making sure that the people that you have orbiting your world are holding you responsible. Because another
Mm,
thing is that we have to make sure that who's letting these men get away with these things. I mean, they're hanging out with their homies, and they're going to Atlanta, and they're going to these yacht parties in Miami, and all of the things they're doing. I mean, again, I say it all the time. Me and my brothers talk all the time. we find it very unusual for a man to have kids, and on his timeline, he's not mentioning anything about them. Why are you talking about anything else except your kids? I mean, every
Right.
4 or 5 posts at least has to be about your children. So again, it's step up to the plate, be accountable, because the fact of the matter is that you never can get time back. It's a luxury. Many luxuries you can
Mm,
get back. Time is not one of them. You can get back. So once those
absolutely.
years, especially those critical years, from 0 to 10, as what Fabian mentioned, I mean, you may be able to get away with it once they get to maybe 11 or 12, but they have their frontal cortex is already developed at that point. Um, uh, as far as the women go, they just need to understand that I don't believe that any part of the justice system is for black people. So until we fix the justice system, but some people do need to be taken to court. I don't want to trigger nobody, but until we fix the justice system, I would like for the mother and the father to get together and see if they can come up with an agreement as far as child support rights, as far as visitation rights before you go to the court. Because I'm here to tell you now is that the court is not in the favor
Yeah.
of the black people, and it
Come
cannot be
on, you better
used.
say that. You
It
better
cannot be
say that,
used.
honey, because that's the
It can.
truth.
It cannot be used
That
as
is
a
the truth.
weapon. It
Hmm.
cannot be used as a weapon to defend your bitterness and your heartbreak. That's not what it's there for. Yes, if you do need to get some support, it's there for that. But for it's used for revenge more than it is used for financial support, stability, and to raise the child. And but again, you can always come together again, and it takes a village to raise a child. So you got to make sure that you got the aunties. You have to make sure you have the uncles. I have inside of one of our houses that we have here in Carolina, because I stay on both coasts. I have my nephews here with me, my
Hmm.
nephews, and I'm like their dad 2.0, but I'm
That
way
part,
cooler, of
right,
course. You know what I
right,
mean?
right.
But yeah. So that's would be my advice.
Yeah, and we have comments here that said that bring back a village that raised the youth, and
Yeah.
they don't have to. And another comment was they don't have to be the father to be a father figure. So just what you
Yes.
were saying, if it's the uncle, if it's the older brother, sometimes you got to. And we need that. We do. We need that village to be able. So for the fathers that find it hard for whatever the reason, employ the people in your family to be able to help you raise this child. You don't have to do it alone. And for mothers, and I'm speaking now to the viewers and the women. If there's anyone on here that has been your experience, I've seen it on both spectrums. My brother is being taken to court, and they were active fathers and present, trying to be in their child's life, and the mom using it against them because of the fact that they were no longer together. And I see my niece and nephews, and it only hurts them. It does not hurt. You may win the battle in the moment, but the war in raising your children, there's so much ugliness in the world. They need both mother and father, so you're not winning in the end. The only one that's gonna lose out is your children, and in the end they always see it for what it is, and they'll recognize who kept them from their parent. So please, I'm imploring to you, fathers, get re-engaged with your children. Do what you can. Have that conversation. Mothers, put aside whatever hurt feelings you have and think about your children, because at the end of the day, it's about them, at the end. So, dads, I just want to thank you so much for coming on the show, and just wanting to honor you once again and saying thank you. Thank you for being those role models that our community needs to see. Representation matters. We say Black Lives Matter. We say, all of that, but representation matters, and we need to see strong fathers out there that are there, whether they're boy dads, girl dads. We need them all. And you dads are out there, raising nephews. Fabian, I see you, people look up to you in the community, in the profession that you do, and that's more male dominated, and they're looking up to you. And that's a beautiful thing. And we heard Rain speak so eloquently about her dad. So I'm going to actually let Rain close us out in just sharing with her dad, what does your daddy mean to you? Or what does your dad mean to you, because you shared that, but what are some final things that you would like to share with your dad, being that he has been so present in your life?
Jeez. Thank you, Dad. Thank you for all the lessons, for all the tears I had on you. Oh, it's gonna make me cry. Hi.
This is food
For
for the
being there for
soul. Oh.
and having my back. At the end of the day, you were the one person that had my back.
Ooh, Rain, you about to make me cry, girl. Ooh.
No, but for real, had my back, was super honest with me, and I appreciate that. Till this day, like I'm still, me and him, we be having little arguments here and there, but it's like it's good because it's like at this point in my life, I'm like figuring out like what I want to do and this and that. So like he's kind of like he's there, but he's kind of like my backbone. So like when I need help or if like confused about something, so I appreciate you, Dad. And that makes me so emotional because I never say it often. But I appreciate you. I appreciate all the good dads, and I love you. And that's it.
And what she's saying, and the brother on here can appreciate this, is for a dad, that's all we want to hear from our children. Is that
Yeah.
we just want to hear, you know what, we appreciate that you have our back, and we do. We do.
Yeah.
We don't want your money. We don't want nothing. We just want you to be happy and just be good human beings. But be happy. And to hear that blesses my heart. And I'm sure the brother there could feel that, from
Yeah,
his
we all
children.
can feel it. Rain
And
got me over here too. I'm really trying to hold
Because
back right now.
it's hard for me to say my emotions. Like I always tend to have that problem. It's hard for me to speak directly from the heart. I always tear up. Always. So it's like saying stuff like that to him. I don't really say it that often to my dad. I mean, I hope you know it that I do genuinely, like every day. But it's true though. Like at the end of the day, out of everything, or at least most of my life, he was always been there. Out of everybody, it was always him. So it was like that's somebody like I'm always gonna have his back at the end of the day.
That's beautiful. Yeah. And
Mhm.
I took care of my dad, in his last days. So that's it, it comes full circle. So absolutely. I want to thank each and every one of you.
Thank
And
you.
this is exactly what this
This is
show
a
was about.
beautiful ending. This is a beautiful ending, Rain. And,
Yes.
Brother Fabian, feel free
Thank
to
you.
reach out to me on social media. I mean, I think it's great. This is very powerful. And like I said, I'm so grateful for you, Asiya, to be at this. I'm a little bit under the weather, so I don't normally have my normal energy, but I wouldn't miss this. I answer the call of the people who I serve. And to see you, Lady Rain, and to you, King Fabian, to be in this space with you. I'm appreciative that I'm able to occupy this space with you for 68
Thank you.
minutes, and it's a time that was well worth it. And let's do this again, Asiya.
Definitely.
You always can pull me aside, and we'll figure out a way to align it. And I thank you so much. I'm so grateful to hear this and to be a part of this. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Likewise.
So I just want to close in, this is what the narrative is about. And this is why we wanted to have the children even come on to be able to speak, because we don't honor our fathers and our kings in our community enough. And I wanted to change that narrative and hope that this be the beginning. And fathers that are not in their children's life, these are the conversations and the defining moment that you're missing out on. And we're hoping that this will be the re-engagement for you and for mothers, if you're listening. Those are the I love you dads and I appreciate you. Those are the moments and the emotions that you saw, the real raw emotions that, Rain shared. That's what your child is missing. Turn those tears of missing their dad to appreciating their dad. Turn those into happy tears. So I thank everyone and I honor you, fathers. I salute you, for being the dads that you are, and Rain being so transparent with your feelings. If you just tuned in, you can go on YouTube to our YouTube channel at Asiya Nasir Shahid, and you can subscribe and hit that subscribe button and like this video, so that way all fathers that are honoring, that want to hear those good things, can hear this video and see this video. But when you subscribe to our YouTube channel, you can see all of our past conversations that are just as powerful as this one, and be notified of our future ones. So until next week will be part 3 and our final series of honoring our fathers, for another 2 great dads that are in our communities that we want to recognize and share. So thank you, Brother Hanif. Thank you, Fabian, my childhood
Thank
friend,
thank you.
and
Thank you.
my mentor,
Thank you.
Hanif, and Rain. It was a pleasure that this was our first encounter together, and it was as beautiful as this one. And to all our viewers, thank you for watching, and we'll see you, God willing, next week.
Thank you.
Bye, you guys.